In this episode of Pop Culture Weekly, a woman, a car, and a tow bill for $21,634. And writer and director Stephanie Laing joins me, and I sit down with the stars of the film, Academy Award nominee Byrne and Dominic Sessa, to talk about Tow. Let's go!
Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon from iHeartRadio. Your pop culture news, views, reviews, and celebrity interviews on all the movies, TV, music, and pop culture you crave weekly. Here's Kyle McMahon.
Hello, and welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon. I, of course, am Kyle McMahon, and this is the show where we celebrate pop culture, question our life choices, and occasionally hear a story so insane it makes you wonder how any of us are actually functioning as a freaking society. I'm your host, Kyle McMahon, of course, and we are diving in to the new film Tow. Now, this film is really good. It's really crazy because it's based on a true story, but it's the true story of Amanda Ogle, who was a homeless woman in Seattle who ends up trapped in what can really only be described as tow company purgatory after getting hit with a bill for over $21,000. $21,000 for a tow. Like, at that point, just keep the car and, like, what are we even doing? But beneath that real absurdity, it's a story about resilience, about fighting back against a system that feels impossible to win against, and somehow finding a way through it anyway. So let's start right at the source. I am talking with the writer and director of Tow, Stephanie Laing, and we got into what drew her to this story, how you balance something that's both completely outrageous and deeply human, and it's real, and why stories like this matter right now. Here she is, Stephanie Laing. So, first of all, I love Tow, and I wonder, you managed to turn this one-woman story about a $21,000 tow bill into, a movie. Where did it start for you that this isn't just one woman's story, but this is a movie?
Yeah. Well, I read the script and I think I was probably 5 pages in when I was already infuriated with the story and like the real Amanda's journey, and then I felt her fight and I was like, oh, I have to tell this story, right? So there's a producer on the movie who knows Amanda, who read an article, and we were like, oh, he was smart enough to go, this is every man's fight, right? This is going to be relatable because we're all fighting things in our own lives with different levels of stakes. So he was smart enough to do that part, and then I was like, much like Amanda's journey, like finding your community to help you go fight another fight. So I got sent to fell in love with it, fell in love with Amanda, fell in love with Kevin, fell in love with Avery, and then I had worked with Rose, for many years on the Apple show Physical, and just knew it was her, and thankfully she agreed. So she took on the fight. And then everybody else who joined in cast-wise was like, also just like, we're going to take on this fight and we're going to make sure we tell this woman's story.
How did you, as a director, how do you turn essentially paperwork into cinema?
I mean, weirdly for me, sometimes I hear it before I see it. So like I usually do a playlist, and it was a lot of for me, a lot of pop, not pop, a lot of oh my God, a lot of punk rock songs, because the real Amanda, that's like what she liked. And I was like, what do you listen to? So I started listening to what the real Amanda listened to, and then just visually going, all right, if like how we're going to tell this story is like letting the character move the camera and let it just, so for me that it's like, that's a big part of it. It's just like, how are we visually telling it once we have it cast, and then really drilling down on the details of the characters across the board, like what they're wearing, what they look like. Octavia is so interesting because I don't know if anyone notices that she's an emotional eater character. She's always putting candy or something in her mouth, and I don't know like how many, whether you notice it or not. It's just those layers make them feel real and relatable, and and then you fall in love with them. So,
did you learn more than you thought, as you're doing research, as you're diving into this project? Were there instances of systemic problems, especially with, the homeless community, that was worse than you thought going in?
I think that I think it was very like we did a lot of research and a lot of going to Covenant House and meeting with unhoused youth and just hearing their stories and just being so actually blown away by like their hopefulness, that was surprising. And and then also seeing like the just like the wealth disparity when you would go like even just touring locations to film it in, right? Like we went to shelters and I kept noticing that they would use their decorations for the time we were scouting were like Easter decorations, but they were always on like Christmas trees or Christmas, like they just saw the lack of resources, but they were still going to make this holiday, thing. And so, and then we went to one location where they were doing, Instagram photos of dogs in bathtubs for, holidays. And I was like, oh my God, the disparity here is so interesting to me, which is why we have the transitions in the movie that way, right? Because I was like, that was like surprising. But then I was also just struck by like there was one teen that I, interviewed at Coven House and she said like, things were really bad, but they're good now and I'm on my journey. And I don't think I'll ever forget that statement because she was like, she found her community and her help and was fighting her fight, but she still remains so hopeful and so resilient. And I think that's what I hope people take from this movie, that like your voice matters and that you're hopeful and that it's about resilience.
I love that. Stephanie, thank you so much. Thank you for telling the story of the unhoused, and I can't wait for everybody to see Toe.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Have a great day. Stephanie Laing. And what I love about this is, yes, the story is absolutely batshit insane, but it's also real, like legitimately real. And it's that, emotional truth underneath all of that chaos that makes it hit the way it does. All right, so we've talked about the story behind the film, Toe. Let's talk about the people who had to step into it. I sat down with the incredible Rose Byrne, who somehow manages to be hilarious and devastating at the same time. And along with, I should say, Dominic Sessa, who is such an awesome talent, and I can't wait to see his career continue to just blow up. But anyway, we talked about their characters, the emotional weight of the story, and how you portray something that feels this real and is this real without overplaying it. Here they are, Rose Byrne and Dominic Sessa. Congratulations on the film. It really is touching and eye-opening. And I wonder, Rose, if I could start with you. Was there a moment, either reading the script or during filming, that you felt, playing Amanda, this was more than just a role, but like, I have to do this? Was there a moment like that for you?
No, I think when Stephanie approached me with the story and then I started reading up about Amanda, I thought, oh, wow, what an opportunity, what a gift to try to bring this character, to tell this person's story. It's an unbelievable story, and she's an unlikely hero in many ways, Amanda. She's so many things stacked against her. And it also confronts your own prejudices around people who are unhoused and how that happens and what they may or may not look like or sound like or act like. And it really challenges you on all that level. And that's really a part of the story Amanda was very passionate about. And I got to spend time with her in Seattle, which was extraordinary. And we sort of went to all of the spots. I was like, take me to the towing company, take me to the shelter, take me to where you went to high school, and it was a gift. It was such an opportunity to dive in. And then there's a great relationship she has with her lawyer, Kevin, who's like 20 years her junior, who's this like, freshly kind of graduated sort of, there's an optimism to him that you only have when you're young, and this sort of wonderful naivety in a way that he brings to the case that I think was, such a fun aspect of the story as well.
Yeah. And Dominic, did you, playing Kevin or going into the role of Kevin, were you able to kind of channel that optimism? I mean, it obviously watching it, it comes through amazingly, but were you able to identify with that kind of optimism that he had, that like, I'm going to win this for her and for everybody else that has that injustice?
Yeah, I think I definitely especially, as a young person myself, have and still do like have this false sense of confidence in certain things and optimism, and also a feeling of wanting to prove something as well, which I think all exists in this character as well. But along with that, it's just really admirable how, especially at a young age and being naive and all of that stuff, I regardless, I mean, this was years, like 3 years of this, and regardless of that, I would not be able to last that long with most things, like let alone something that I'm not making money for. I barely know this person. I really don't have any obligation to them other than the fact that I just ran into their situation. So that, I think that's what really separates Kevin, is at least for me as a person, as someone in their early 20s, is his commitment. And yeah, I mean, I give up on things even when I'm believe that in the impossible,
I love that. And what do you both hope people take from this? I know what I took from it. What do you hope people take from it?
I mean, it hopefully encourages people in whatever situation to speak up for themselves and speak up for other people. Like Kevin is standing up for this stranger, and Amanda's standing up for herself. And I think people seeing that and also realizing that these are real people, this story took place in real life, could encourage people to speak up for themselves.
No, I never want to prescribe like what you should feel or take away from it, but I do think it's I think there's a lot in the movie. There's a lot of ways you can access this movie and find an access point in it, and the fact that it really happened, and just the situation of being unhoused in America, and what this is one really specific example of how that can happen to anybody. It was very really important.
I love that. And, what I took from it, besides amazing performances, is that this can't, this not only can this happen, but it is happening, and how one person's voice can make a difference, and believing in a stranger and doing what's right rather than, what would make money or whatever. So I think it's amazing. I can't wait for everybody to see it. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Rose Byrne and Dominic Sessa. Both of their performances in tow, they stick with you for different reasons. And when you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you got to hit me up so we can discuss it, because they really, really are transformative performances. Because, sometimes it's not just about the entertainment. It's the kind of thing that makes you go, wait a second. This actually happens to people? Like, what the fudge? All right, Toe is out right now. My thanks to Stephanie Laing, Rose Byrne, Dominic Sessa. And if you enjoyed this episode and you're now side-eyeing every tow truck you ever see, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And for even more interviews, deep dives, and pop culture breakdowns, head on over to popcultureweekly.com or my YouTube at Pop Culture Weekly. I'm Kyle McMahon, and until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and maybe double check where you park. Just saying. All right, I love you. We out.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Weekly. Hear all the latest at popcultureweekly.com.
Told me, baby, and now hug you down. I said, why don't you try? Told me, baby, and now hunt you down. I want you to try and tell me, 'cause I'll bring you down to the ground. No, 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 no.